everybody, welcome back live at Drew's House Joppa Afternoon Drive. Hope you're all doing well. We got a sunny day here in Newburyport here. It's been a weird, kind of beginning to this spring season. I thought we were in spring for a little while there, where it was nice. We had a couple warm days, and then it got cold again. But this time of year, this man just reminded me of this. He comes in pretty much once a year here. we kind of have him around the same time. Paul Hogg is the harbor master here in Newburyport. How you doing, my man? What's going on?
Great. How you doing? Thanks for having me in again today.
I know. You said it's like going to the doctor, right?
Here we go. I was going to walk in. So here we go again. It's that time of year.
I do less touching, you know. But things are good? Good off season? Or you don't have an off season, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it's this time of year things start happening quick. Like you just said, with the nice weather coming, people start walking around downtown.
Sure.
There's a big buzz in the boardwalk. People coming into the office, starting to get their boats ready. You start seeing some movement.
Have people already put them in?
No. So basically, they'll start putting them in within the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
So we actually start April 2nd and 3rd. So we'll start down at Cashman Park on the 2nd.
Okay.
And then on the 3rd, we'll do the whole central waterfront. And, the whole key to that, too, is we want to get the docks in the water and get them off the, because they have that new park. So there's the grass and everything, so give them time to get that all squared away. And we like to be the first ones in, get a boat in, because as things start to happen and people are working on docks, I like to be able to have a boat in if something happens.
Right. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So pretty much once the calendar turns to April, people start to get the boat. Let's put the boat in.
Yeah, and like you said, you get this nice weather, and that really, speeds things up a little bit because people start getting excited, and then next thing you know, it's sleeting and cold. And
I wish I was at a funeral the other day, not to be a downer, but the hail that came down.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite hail where we were, but I know there was hail around. But it rained harder than I've ever experienced. The umbrellas couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
It was, oh man.
They didn't get the wind that comes by and it blows the umbrella.
Yeah, we were elevated. It was in Peabody, and it was on the hills of Peabody. And oh my God, I was that was some of the worst weather I've ever experienced to have to be outside for.
You never know. It's like the April Fool's storm we had a few years back. We got all that snow. It's
it was a really big one. 20 years ago? When I was a
maybe
kid.
it was more. I said a few. It's probably more it was the April Fool's Day storm.
And my dad always was remember that? He's like, you were a kid, but man, it was it was a lot of snow. Let's not none of that this year, right? You must have. I talk about bad weather on land. You must have some bad weather at sea from time to time, now.
Yeah, generally it's advanced, because there's no protection, especially when it's coming from the northeast.
Yeah.
So it can get real bad at any time. And
why the northeast? Just Canada brings bad storms.
Yeah, it's just generally you hear a nor'easter. It's just generally when we get the worst of the weather coming out of the northeast, and especially because when it's coming off the land, when it's blowing westerly, it's protected by the land, so it's not as strong as a nor'easter. And that's
so it's about lack of protection, that's what the nor'easter thing is.
Yeah.
That makes sense. All right, very good. We got a lot to talk about as far as the boating rules and safety and all that stuff. But can we talk a little bit about your fishing escapades here? You've got yourself a new gig and been traveling a lot. Good for you, man.
Yeah. So in the wintertime, generally January and February, it's my slower time, obviously, and that's when I get to use up a little of my vacation time. So I've been going down to Costa Rica and Guatemala, and basically what we do is I help with the conservation of sailfish and marlin. So they have all these big tournaments. Michael Jordan was down fishing in one of the ones I was participating in. And,
wow.
And I help with the tournaments. Basically every boat has an observer on the boat, and we keep track of the score, make sure everyone's following the rules, which all these guys generally do. They're high-end fishermen. It's some of the best fishermen in the world, the best fishing in the world. For example, in one day, one of the boats I was on caught 37 sailfish.
Wow.
And my job is to make sure they release them correctly, keep them healthy, keep them going, and I keep track of the score. So it's good because it's a non-kill tournament.
Yeah.
And that gives me an opportunity. Obviously, everybody probably knows my passion's to fish. So to be part of it and to be part of these tournaments and to see some of the best fishermen in the world on the best boats in the world, it's a really good thing to do in the wintertime.
Wow, very cool. So what are the rules to how do you properly release a fish? Is it more about make sure you get it scored and then release?
Yeah, so the key is you get them in the boat as quick as possible.
Yeah.
A catch is confirmed as soon as the mate touches the leader. And they have to use all circle hooks. So a lot of times a good thing with the circle hooks means it catches them in the mouth versus them swallowing the hook.
Yeah.
They do the same type of thing for striped bass. You have to use circle hooks. Cannot use live bait because generally with live bait a lot of times they swallow the bait down, so it's all dead baits, trolling.
Gotcha.
So it's then they get them to the boat, they get rid of them right away, and sometimes they help swim them to bring them back to life a little bit, and off they go, and then
Is that a Costa Rica thing, doing like because that seems to be very conscious of making sure the fish population stays strong?
Yeah.
Is that a worldwide thing, or is that like something that Costa Rica's ahead
It just
of?
happened in Costa Rica, and actually these tournaments that I just fished had the best numbers they've ever had.
Wow.
I mean, to go somewhere and catch, you go to Florida and you're like, oh, we got a sailfish. It's like you're down there. We're catching 30, 40 fish in a day, never mind the ones that you hook and lose, or the ones that you see, the ones you don't catch. And that's between 70 boats. And these boats are getting 20 to 30 fish. I mean,
wow.
It's the fish population. And also they have long liners down there that, so the rules are getting stricter. They're pushing the commercial boats offshore. So part of the International Game Fish Association that I'm part of helps with the conservatory of the fish, which, some of these tournaments that they have, you kill them. You kill the marlin, you bring them in, you weigh them, and this is all release.
Yeah.
So it's really fun to be part of. Every boat has an observer on it, and that's what I do. So you got to have a pretty substantial background just to know. You have to identify the fish. You have to make sure you know the difference between the different types of marlin, and things happen quick.
Yeah.
You're sitting there, you're fighting one fish, and then all of a sudden you look back, and there's 3 people fighting a fish, and they're running around, moving around, and the baits, and the boat's backing down, and then it can be very chaotic. But
no cigars out there.
Unless you're on Michael Jordan's boat.
Okay. Is that what he's doing? Yeah.
Yeah, he likes the cigars. But it was really cool to go to this tournament, walk by, and he's just sitting there. But he's got the security guards there. And
sure.
Couldn't get too close. And I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, there must be guys like you must love that though, when they have like the when you do see a fish population strong like that. Like it's just what were our numbers this year? My goodness, it's so much up from last year.
And as a fisherman, that's your goal. We want to conserve. We want to we care about the species and the sport, and like the bluefin tuna. That's all regulated. You have certain days you can fish. There's quota, it's all regulated, and the even the bluefin tuna population here is coming back.
Yeah. I was talking to some of the, I went to a thing called Whale Jam, a music fundraiser for whales, and like a big part of that is working with fishermen, the big fishing boats that come, they leave Gloucester or whatever, and they go out there, and because that is whale strikes, of course, is a big reason why. And what's your take like on all that? Because I know generally when I talk to fishermen, they say, we're all for anything that makes the life out there safer. It seems like most fishermen are very, very conscientious, and then they like taking in that new information. You get new technology that will help us not do that? No, absolutely.
Yep.
Is that about right? Is that kind of the pulse of the fishermen that you get?
Yeah, and also, so like for the lobster traps, for example, they have to have breakaways.
Yep.
So if a whale happens to come in and get caught up in it, there's a breakaway on the buoy so they don't get tangled up in it.
Oh, that must be pretty common, huh?
Yeah, it's mandatory, So, but then they have certain zones of where there's slow speed, where the whales are migrating, and and there's only so many whales. And they're it's
360 right whales I just heard left in the world.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
Yeah, so obviously whales are a huge part. There's nothing better than, for me, it never gets old.
Yeah.
When you're just sitting out there fishing and you see a humpback whale come by and just seeing it. And,
that happens.
And then they're breaching. Oh, yeah. And I've been seeing it my whole life, but it never gets old. And, you just really, you care about it. You're out there. That's half the reason of being a sportsman and being a fisherman is, it's not about just killing the fish. And because, and it's about protecting the species. And that's why there's quota. And that's why you work with marine fisheries and adhere to all these laws. And,
yeah. I've never done one of the the whale watches or anything. I don't think I've ever actually seen I know I haven't seen a breaching. That must be quite a sight.
It's unbelievable. Like I said, and you feel so small. I'm on a 31-foot boat, and you got a whale out there that's 3 times the size of it jumping out of the water. You're like, whoa. We actually had, for the first time in a while, a blue whale here, which was a big deal.
Oh wow!
And that was good for the whale watch business, and it's not too often that they come up this way.
Yeah. Like how close? Where exactly?
It was within 30 miles.
Wow.
Yeah, it was moving around and down off Stellwagen area. I was talking to the whale watch that we have around here, and they said it was awesome to go out and see a blue whale.
Well, because you do. They come up all the time, right? They're they're not staying under the whole time. So.
Yeah, but they can stay under for quite a bit. I feel like I want to say like 3 hours or something crazy.
Really?
That they can stay underwater.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then they pop up, and everybody's in awe.
Yeah. When you get stuff like that, and past couple of years too, we've had the pogies and the bait fish in close. We actually had at one point a couple of years ago, we actually had a humpback whale in the mouth of the river.
Oh, wow.
It came in, yeah, it kind of was in here for a little bit, and then.
Is that a good thing, or do you guys kind of get worried about that?
Well, you definitely get worried. It's a hazard. I mean, you got all these people flying around. It's not too often you see a whale in the mouth of the river.
Sure,
I mean, it's very, very rare.
Like, can you do anything?
We were out there keeping an eye on it, had the blue lights on, just kind of, helping it. Hopefully, eventually it found its way out. You know, but it's generally with the higher tides, because it needs the salt water. At the lower tides, they don't really survive because the water's so fresh. So it came in for a little bit, then worked its way out. And we sat there with the blue lights just because you didn't want, then you had people that want to see it, and we just wanted to keep it safe and get out of the river. And then I want to say 4 or 5 years ago too, we had a dolphin.
Wow,
that was in the river for a couple of weeks. And
How does that happen?
It just fluke things happen like this once in a while, And then we get the call all the time. The sunfish, the ocean sunfish, come into the river. Yeah. And everyone thinks it's a great white shark, And I get the calls because they got the fin like it, and of course you got to respond because then I'm like, but. Everybody knows that the great whites do come around here. Yeah. And now we have more and more seals and.
Yeah. Do they don't come in? Do they come in the mouth of the river too?
No.
No. Okay. No. That wouldn't happen, right?
No. Okay. I mean, at one time they had a blue shark that came in. Somebody hooked it right by the jetties. But yeah, like I said, you get these big moon tides, and every year. That's a good thing. The exciting thing about the job, you just never know what's going to happen. There's always some new something. There's always something that comes up that's kind of freaky or different, and you're just like, well, I didn't think that was going to happen.
Mysteries of the ocean. Yeah, right? It is fascinating. I mean, that's why kids. I mean, I loved the ocean stuff as a kid because it's just it's just a crazy world. None of there, but I guess that's what makes it so cool. What is the I mean, some of those stories are recent, but is there anything that even has surprised you in recent years with the water? Maybe it's changing. Tides or that bringing other stuff in, anything that's even caught you off guard?
It's kind of the stuff I just talked about.
Those are the ones.
One of the good things that we are doing this year, we just had a meeting about it, is we're going to start trying to get oysters involved in the ecosystem. So we're actually going to have an upweller by my office is the plan. And I met with one of the oyster companies. They're going to come, and people can actually come by my office, and we're going to be raising oysters out there.
Oh, wow.
And basically, the plan is working with the Division of Marine Fisheries is we're going to grow them, and then we're going to put them out somewhere in the river in a habitat because, believe it or not, an oyster filters 50 gallons of water per day per oyster. So so a lot of these places do oyster beds, so it's really helping with the conservation. So it's kind of a pilot program. It's going to be a cool thing for people to come down and watch these oysters grow. And it was kind of funny. We were laughing at the meeting, and I said, yeah, but at the end of the year, I don't want to let them go. I'm going to become close to these things. It was funny.
Yeah. The guy who loves the oysters. That's right.
But obviously they just want to make sure that they go somewhere too, where someone doesn't dig them and eat them because technically it's still a contaminated area here. Yep. And I think we have about a dozen.
Contaminated from years and years
from the water. Yeah, we're still considered a contaminated area where if you dig clams here, you have to send them to a place to have them purified and filtered. So the place that was down on Plum Island that's been there for forever shut down. So now these diggers have to go to Bain, get them purified, and then make sure that they're clean before they send them out for food.
Gotcha. How much water progress in the water has been made, would you say, during your time here? Because I know since I've been coming to Newburyport, it seems like, there's always efforts to make these waterways cleaner. And just
the biggest thing we're up against are the CSOs, the combined sewer overflows that come from upriver. Yeah. When a lot of these communities, that they get to a certain point, there's a lot, and the CSOs go in. So our number one thing is the testing. So when the water's real bad and there's a lot of this bacteria coming down. Yeah. As a city, I've been working with the mayor's office in the health department to notify people, hey, we just had after a big rainstorm, there's so much of this water bad water that comes into the river and flows down our way. So you got to wait for a couple of tide cycles. That's the good thing is.
So there's really no stopping that, right? That's nature.
Not right now. Well, what's stopping is updating the plants. The sewer plants, but they. That's billions of dollars, and that's a long-term plan. So we're just working on something, shorter term. Because we have a program in place too, where we, City of Newburyport, we go and we pump out the boats, make sure they're not dumping it in the water. we're trying to do everything on our end just to keep the water clean as possible.
Yeah, and oysters.
And oysters.
I had no idea. That's what they.
Yeah, no, I remember when because I'm the shellfish constable for the city as well. And when I was kind of taking these classes.
How many titles do you have these days?
Keeps me busy. And then so it's just that was one of the things that stuck out. And then they came and made a presentation to the Harbor Commission the other night, and I says, you know what, let's try it. And I think it'd be really cool for thinking about these Hawk schools and boat camps, and just to kind of come down and just learn about the oysters. And they're literally going to be like a tank by my office. Yeah. 8x4, and they're just going to start off as little seeds. You watch them grow, and then you release them into an area that Marine Fisheries approves. And then who knows where it's going to grow down the road. And if we can start, it's really good for the ecosystem. So I hope it works out.
Love it. All right, Paul Hogg, the harbor master here in Newburyport. So let's talk a little bit about it here. You're about to put all these boats in the water. Every year we kind of talk about the people doing stupid things, and that season is about to kick in as well.
Yes, yes. A lot of things happen early in the season. Yeah. So people get all excited to put their boats in the water.
Yep.
A lot of things happen in the beginning of the season because the boats have been sitting.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of boats that break down. We have bilge pump failures, boats taken on water. So it's just really important to go out and test drive your boat and get a good handle on things, because you get a nice day like, let's just throw it in the water. Yeah. And then they're a cashman, and then they're waving us over, come and help because something. But you work through those kinks just like every boat, after they've been sitting, and things start happening quickly, within the next couple of weeks.
You never just wave back, huh? Yeah, some of the I remember my dad was one of those guys on the lake in Maine who bought a boat, and he's not really he's from Lynn, he's not not a boat guy, but he's he got a boat and did the work, but then he forgot to put the cap in. I remember when I was a kid, my buddy luckily had a boat. We're all three of us there, and there's taking on water. Why is it taking on water? Did you put the cap in? My dad goes, what cap? And he goes, well, that would be
the one that's sitting right here on the dash.
This isn't good.
Yeah. Generally, I tell people the drain plug, leave it with your keys. So that way there you kind of don't forget. So like you just said, beginning of the season, the drain plugs are out. So
do you see that one every year?
Multiple times.
Yeah,
at Cashman Park, that's part of the training that I tell the guys. Like every boat that's backing down, look for the drain plug. Make sure the straps are off the back. Sometimes they'll back the boat and they leave the straps on, so the boat's still attached to the trailer. Make sure your trailer hitch is locked. I've seen them backing down. As soon as they go down the ramp, the boat pops off.
Oh my God!
Because it pops off the trailer hitch. It's not locked, but as they're driving, and it's just the weight of the bow, keeps it there. But so
you must be able. You could make probably a movie reel of all the.
Go down to Cashman Park on a Saturday, and yes, you could absolutely make a movie. The stuff you see down there, and it's a very busy. Actually, Cashman Park is one of the busiest launches in the Commonwealth. So it's extremely busy, especially during striped bass season. We have a really good fishery here with the stripers. That population has come back quite a bit. So it's and last year was a great year. It was a little different than the year before. We had great weekends. Yeah. There was beautiful every weekend. Yeah. Gas prices came down a little bit. Ever since COVID, everybody bought boats. So a lot of people have boats, and people are still boating. They're like, I bought this boat during COVID. I got to use it.
So it's busier than ever, really, you think?
The past 2 years have been the busiest it's ever been. So, for example, we had our busiest year ever on the docks. We had over 1,100 transient boats come visit the city of Newburyport by water.
Wow.
So, and we're not only...
What span is that from...
So generally May 15th. It's Memorial Day to Labor Day is our go time. But then, from Labor Day to Columbus Day is real busy too, people traveling around. But we're getting bigger boats too. Wow. And, it's not only getting the boats here. We have a 5-star review on marinas.com, so it's about customer service. We're almost running a little marina as well as public safety and law enforcement and all that. Yeah. But people are able to come down to the new docks, and we actually just redid the whole bulkhead down on the boardwalk. We updated all electrical, updated all the water. People pull up, they come downtown, and they go, I've been all over the world, and this little city of Newburyport is a gem. This is one of my favorite places to come. They're going downtown, they're going out to breakfast, we got beautiful restaurants, they can walk on the boardwalk, and it's all right there. Yeah,
I was going to say that. I don't know how many, there's a lot of port cities, but how many actually give you the opportunity to step off the dock and
not that many.
Be in a beautiful downtown?
Right, it's all right there. Yeah. And then, with our new facility too, it's 2016 now, but it's... we have laundry. They can come and take showers. So even though they have some of these nicer boats, it's still nice to get off the boat, do your laundry, take a shower in an actual facility. Yeah. And then they do, then they move on to the next, and it's just part of their, their travel program.
Wow, so that's crazy. So you guys are seeing all that traffic, though. That's that does make life busy for you.
To give you an idea, we would do 500, 600 before.
So you've doubled it since COVID.
We signed on with this reservation program that we have now, and it's just really, my staff I have a really, really good staff right now. We're all dialed in, starting from the, the supervisors in my office to my staff to the dock hands, and, boats are leaving now saying, thank you, we'll see you in a couple, on the radio.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot that goes to it that's why you got to wear many hats with this job. Like I said, your public safety, your law enforcement, your, running a dock. You just never know what the day is going to bring.
What's the best restaurant downtown?
Yeah. I give them the whole list. I don't want to say anything in particular.
Well played.
Because we have many, and we're very lucky, and I've traveled all over a lot of different places, and it's still, there's not many places better than Newburyport.
No doubt. Actually, I just saw I was talking, this little side note, I just heard that the up for sale there on Plum Island, that little breakfast joint there, Martha's, is it?
Yeah.
They're putting it up for sale. I was just talking with one of the owners, and they say it's a happy story. It's not like we're just kind of moving on with some things. So
yeah, it's a excellent breakfast place. It's a staple of Plum Island.
Yeah.
And I don't know all the details, but in the breakfast world, it's a lot of work.
Yeah. Oh, I do know that. Yes.
So they've got that place up and running, and
15 years or something. I think they did.
Yeah.
Right? 14 years. Yeah.
Yeah, and hopefully someone takes it over and keeps running it the same exact way, because that place has an excellent reputation.
No doubt. How's the fishing on Plum Island?
During the season, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I always see people. It seems like a popular place to throw a line.
So I manage the parking lot down on Plum Island.
Okay.
During striper season, it's full.
Yeah.
24. I mean, at night you'll show up and there'll be 50 cars in the lot.
Oh, really?
Because the night fishing is really good for the stripers as well.
Ooh.
Yeah. So that's another draw to the city is like I said, the striped bass fishing is some of the best in the world here.
Literally like pitch black, like overnight.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah,
I don't think I realized that.
They use live eels, and eels generally only work at night.
Wow, I had no idea.
Eels, if you've seen it, they're like a snake, and a lot of people get freaked out by them.
I would get freaked out by them. Yeah. Yes, I'm not giving it. So you throw an eel out there and
throw it out live, and it swims around, and that's They
How big of an eel? They get pretty big, don't they?
Yeah, generally 8 to 12 inches. And then they use them live. And, I mean, they got guys on kayaks, drifting through Joppa. A lot of boats go right up a Joppa Flats, almost by where the Plum Island Bridge is. The striped bass go back there. They fish right on the ocean, right on the beachfront. And
there's that nighttime safety precautions has to be a thing, right? I imagine the ocean at night always is kind of if you don't respect it,
Well, and also too, you got to make sure people, you have your nav lights on, so people are all buzzing around. It gets real busy because we actually have a commercial striped bass season, and you're allowed to catch 15 stripers per person per night. And some of these guys are catching 15 fish. Yeah. At 30, 40, 50 pounds a piece. That's a lot of fish.
Yeah. Damn.
But there's a certain quota for that. Everybody has mixed feelings on that, but there's once it hits the quota, it's over. So marine fisheries figure out a number. We have X amount of fish. We're going to save this pocket of quota for the commercial guys, and once they catch it, it's over.
Meaning, a lot of people have questions about it. Meaning, they question it, like why?
Yeah, like killing 15 stripers in a day. Striped bass, it's just hard to see when you're trying to conserve them on one end, but like I say, it's all figured out mathematically. There's mixed feelings on both sides about people are dead against it, some people are for it, some so it's just
and fishermen would argue you're halting my
and some other ones say come out fish with me for a day, I'll catch 50 of these things. There's plenty around, and other people say I'm out. The commercial guys or the guys doing charters, they catch them, they try to let a lot of fish go because you want to conserve them, It's hard to kill a fish that big, and certain breeders and certain different sizes, but like I said, there's mixed emotion.
And it's always complicated too. I've heard arguments on both sides, and there's always good cases, And if a fisherman says to me, come out with me, I catch 50 of them, I would say you're probably right. 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 I'm sure you're right.
And that's the key. So a lot of these fishermen, need to go to these meetings and let people know, and because Marine Fisheries holds all these meetings at different times and setting quotas. And like I said, you can see all the different sides online. A lot of it's posted, and all right. I stay right in the middle.
It's a good place to be. That's right. Listen to both sides.
I do see both sides, and I fish myself. So it's,
It's probably good to when you're in it like as much as you are to do know. You want to always know the other side. Like, what is that argument? Like, and why should let me educate myself on it? So that's always a smart thing to do, whether you're here or Costa Rica. Right? Fishing rules. Paul Hogg joining us, Newburyport Harbor Master. Final few minutes. This season, anything new that we need to know about? Any Newburyport attractions? Any new rules or whatever? I don't know.
Glad you brought that up.
Oh, good.
So the number one thing and the most important thing, after 13 years, it's now mandatory to have a boating certificate.
Oh.
So we're one of the first states in New England to not have that, Massachusetts. And for 13 years, Harbor Masters, we've been really pushing for it. So there's some certain rules and certain stipulations, and I can just go over that real quick.
Yep.
So on January 8, 2025, Governor Maura Healey signed the Hansen-Malone Act, establishing a boater education program in Massachusetts. This law requires all boat operators to pass a safety test and carry a boater certificate on board. Exemptions apply to merchant mariners, active military members, and students in certain programs. Those with existing certificates won't need to retake the exam. The law also has reciprocity with NASBLA-approved certificates from other states. The legislation was drafted over 10 years ago. Mass is the last of New England states to sign a Safe Boating Act into law. So this was huge, and we've been pushing for this a long time, because at any time you could just say, hey, I'm going to go buy a boat, and off I go with no safety training. And I think I've sat in here before and preached it, saying we don't have a license in effect yet, but we're working on it. Well, now it's in law. Yeah. So it's
long time coming. I get the sense from you.
Long time coming. Yeah. And it's, 75% of the boating accidents were people that had no type of training or certificates, or so it's. Yeah. You can get that through the Coast Guard Auxiliary, through NASBLA. The environmental police. We'll be teaching classes at our office, because it's going to start getting really busy. And I always tell people we're here to help. We're here to educate, boating education. So. Basically, this bill was named after David Hansen, who tragically died in a 2010 boating accident, and Paul Malone, who was the Weymouth Harbor Master, who I worked hand in hand with, helping with this. And he was all about boater safety. He was always at the boat show in Boston. He worked there every day. It was really a passion of his, and he retired, and unfortunately he passed away not long after. So that really helped, help push it through. So just as far as some other stuff, that the guidance that was published to the Office of Law Enforcement no later than October. So anyone born after July 1st, 1989 has until April 1st, 2026 to obtain their certificate, provided no operator shall be assessed a penalty until September 1st, 2026. Anyone born before July 1st, 1989 must obtain their certificate before April 1st, 2028. So this is just starting to come into play now, but I tell everyone, you should have it anyway. Yeah. Go out and get it as soon as you can, but everything's just starting to happen now. I imagine, because you guys see it all, right? If there's accidents happen, they can happen with the most trained boaters in the world, right? But I imagine that percentage goes way, way down if you know what the hell you're doing on a boat, right?
It helps when everybody's on the same page. If you know the rules, and I don't, and we happen to, there's rules of the road, drive, on which sides of the water to be on, and light signals at night. It doesn't do anybody any good if nobody knows. So it's
Well, you think about driving on a road, right? You got to do a million things to get a license. With permits, a kid, you try with your trainer that takes you out. You're with your parents at first. You can only be in the car with them. There's a million rules. But a boat, you could just throw it out there before and go.
And a lot of times with the currents and the weather, and there's a lot of things can happen quickly here. Next thing you know, you're out there and a thunderstorm rolls in and the fog rolls in, and you're like, oh, now what?
Yeah.
So they call us. I'm out here in the fog. I don't really know where I am. Can you come find me?
It just reminds me. Have you seen that commercial out there where I don't even know what they're advertising, but there's two dogs on the two guys on this port, on the docks, and the guy goes, "Beautiful day for boat." Oh yeah. And he goes on there, and they look. They go, "Storm coming. I'll call the Coast Guard."
I think it's an insurance commercial.
That's an insurance commercial.
I know exactly that one.
It just reminded me about that. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. So cool. So you guys are pretty much unanimous. All the harbor masters love this and everything, right?
Yeah. So the biggest thing, like I said, is I know you always ask me what's most important thing probably out of today as far as new laws or new things going on. That's number one. Just any questions, they can reach out to me in my office, and we'll help you get involved with a class if you need it. But that's probably the biggest and best thing we got going on for this year.
Awesome. All right. And then just the same deal, general, don't take for granted that this is one of the toughest rivers in the world, right? Really, you can say that in the world, I think.
It can be.
Yeah.
It can be. Yeah. So just like I said, always pay attention, always look at the weather, the tides,
And you can always reach out to the Coast Guard to get a bar report, find out what's going on at the mouth of the river. And yes, it can be very dangerous, but it can also be fun and safe, and just during the right times.
Anything hit you last year after we spoke where you were like, that'd be a good one for the show? That's a good story. I need you to start making notes for the show.
There were so many different stories that happened, but nothing that really sticks out off the top of my head right now.
Yeah, we just want to avoid all the tragedies out there and stuff. And I know we've had too many of those too over the years.
Yeah, last year, all in all, for how busy it was a safe year. We didn't have. I didn't have any fatalities, which was good. A little bit different than the year before. We had 6.
We started off like with 1, right? Before the season even got going, you guys were called for.
Yeah, and then that's as a harbor master, you really try to anything that happens to prevent why it happened, how it happened. What can I do with my job to prevent that from happening? So it's The other good thing is actually the fire department has a new fireboat that will be that will be into play this year. So I'll be working with them to help them do some training, and that'll be good too because. There's 1,500 boats just in Newburyport. Yeah. And these marinas, we had a marina fire that could have been really tragic. That was probably another one of the stories that came up where a boat literally engulfed in flames at the marina. And luckily, Jay over at Miramar was there, was able to grab the boat, pull it away from the dock before it turned into a whole marina fire, take it out, and we were able to deal with that. So that's why I'm also glad that we do have this fireboat coming into play.
Cool. Yeah, hopefully you don't have to go rescue the fireboat. They'll remember to put the cap in, right? What's the official name for the cap? I always call it the cap. What'd you say?
The plug?
The plug, yeah.
The drain plug?
Drain plug, thank you.
I wasn't going to correct you.
Yeah, no. Well, you do hear it. People say, you got to put the cap in. I was like, was that the drain plug? I imagine. All right. Yeah. All right, very good. Anything else you'd like to add, my man? Anything for the swimmers, the boaters, the people of Newburyport? We love having you on. Thank you for doing it.
Yeah, no, everybody stay safe. Life jackets are always key, and we're always around. If there's any questions, don't ever hesitate to come by the office and ask any questions, and come by and say hi.
Oh, you must get some silly questions.
We get them all.
One of my favorite guests, because it always means we're about to enter spring. Like the good part of spring, which I'm very excited about. So great to have you, man. Appreciate the time as always. We shall see you soon. Good luck with all the new boaters licenses that'll be coming your way. That's a great thing.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you to May Power. Thank you to Sarah Hayden, the boss, Ryan Rothberg, Lily Dissett, our small but mighty team here in Newburyport. We love you all. Thank you. Weather's getting warmer. We're almost there. Live at Drew's house. Peace.